Hello, and thank you for joining the Performance Health Goal Setting Process Learning Session. The purpose of this session is to review the Performance Health Goal Setting process for 2018 and to review how to establish SMART goals. Today's agenda includes reviewing the performance management process, reviewing our 2018 performance health priorities, learning how to cascade goals through the organization, how to write SMART goals, and reviewing the goal setting timeline. This slide displays the performance health performance management process. The process begins at the beginning of the year as we establish goals for the performance year, which runs January 1st through December 31st. Once goals are finalized, you should, at a minimum, conduct a mid-year review with your employees. The process will formally end with the year-end performance review, which then drives the merit planning process. This slide should look familiar to you. These 2018 priorities were first communicated by our CEO, Jeff George, in his letter to Performance Health employees on March 14th of 2018. We also reviewed these at the managers meeting on Monday, April 9th. As a reminder, employee goals should be directly or indirectly tied to these priorities. But please note that employees do not have to have a goal for each one of these priorities. There could be some employees that have all of their goals tied to just one priority. For instance, someone in distribution could have all of their goals tied to the operational excellence and productivity priority. Whereas there could be someone in human resources that has all of their goals tied to only the first two priorities. So please do not force trying to ensure employees have a goal tied to each and every priority. Their goals should be tied to these priorities as appropriate based on the goals of your direct leader and department. Goals should be cascaded down throughout the organization. The 2018 priorities on the previous slide form the foundation for the goal setting process. The GLT, or Global Leadership Team, is currently finalizing their goals. Once these are finalized, they will work with their VPs and directors to establish business unit goals, which will cascade to the manager level and then down to the individual employee level. Therefore, all goals will be linked together through the cascading process, and thus, all goals will be tied to one or more of the 2018 priorities. As you begin to establish goals either for yourself or for your employees, here's some key questions to ask yourself before even writing your goals. Think, are the goals relevant to achieving the 2018 priorities? Next question, is the scope of the goal appropriate and achievable? While the practical sense of urgency is always good, you do not want to stretch beyond the limits of what is actually achievable for the employee. The next question, are the goals dependent upon others' goals? If so, have you calibrated across the business to ensure alignment? This is a key question that many leaders forget to ask. If you determine that your goal or your employee's goal is dependent upon another person or department, please ensure you align with the other department or person prior to documenting your goal. For instance, if you plan to implement new software to help your department with analytics, you should check with IT to see if there is anything they will need to do on their end to implement this software. And if their assistance is needed, you will need to calibrate on a timeline as to your go-live date to ensure alignment on both ends so goals are actually achievable when desired. So, calibrating across functions is key. Another question to ask is the achievement of the goal under the employee's control. Can they actually complete this goal with the tools and resources they have? Or will they need your guidance and assistance? And if they do, you need to ensure that you have the time and the resources to give them those tools. The next question to ask is, does the employee have the skills necessary to achieve the goals? While stretching goals is a good practice to effectively engage employees, if you stretch too much, it can cause tension and disengagement with the employee. If you will be stretching the employee, ensure that you are appropriately developing them and providing experience and training to allow them to achieve the goal. And lastly, do I understand the career goals of my employees? This is a very important component of the goal-setting process, as you should work to establish goals that will assist the employee in meeting their development needs as well. Once you have asked yourself the key questions from the previous slide, a practical approach to actually writing and documenting your goals is using the SMART goals concept. SMART goals ensure that managers and employees have a mutual understanding of expectations and both understand what success looks like. So let's walk through the SMART goals. S. This is for specific. This is the what, the why, and the how of the goal. Questions to ask. Does this goal clearly define expectations in terms of actions and outcomes? And does this goal avoid generalities and use action verbs? Moving on, M is for measurable. Goals should be measurable so you have tangible evidence that you have accomplished the goal. Does the goal define specific metrics that can be objectively measured, such as quantity, quality, timeliness, cost, etc.? A in SMART is for attainable. Goals should stretch you slightly so you feel challenged, but defined well enough so that you can achieve them. Is the goal challenging but within reason, and does the employee have the skills and experiences necessary to achieve it? R. R is for results focused. These goals should measure outcomes, not activities. Things to think about: is the scope of the goal appropriate given the employee's job responsibilities and levels? And does the goal clearly connect to the department and/or organizational priorities? And lastly, T is for time focused. Goals should be linked to a time frame that creates a practical sense of urgency. Think about, does the goal specify a date or elapsed amount of time by when each goal needs to be completed? One other note under the time focus section is thinking about goal due dates. Many leaders use 12/31 as a blanket due date for all goals. Please understand that you can have goal due dates throughout the year. These goals are just examples of SMART goals. They're not actual goals that need to be used for these groups. So goal 1, this is an example goal for a sales representative. By December 31st, complete 15 business validations and track in the NetSuite system. This will allow sales reps to identify new business to pursue in 2019, allowing Performance Health to grow and increase our revenue. Goal 2, this is for a finance professional. By July 1st of 2018, implement the new customer billing process through NetSuite and train all employees on the process. This new process will allow employees to accurately enter journal entries and reduce the number of entry errors to a target of 99% accuracy. And again, these are just 2 examples using the SMART goals concept. Now, let's bring it all together. Here are the basics of the goal setting process and reviewing goals with your employees. It's the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. So the who, that's you and the employee. You should calibrate and collaborate to set meaningful goals with your employees. The what, that's you and the employee should discuss what the individual performance goals are and how they connect to the 2018 priorities. The where, the discussion and actually talking about the goals should take place in a private area away from disruptions. Show them that this is a meaningful process and that you care about their development. The when, the manager should hold a goal-setting discussion prior to May 9th so that all goals are entered and approved in ADP timely. And lastly is the why. Setting and committing to specific and challenging goals can boost employee engagement, focus, and performance. Moving on, I want to review again the process by location. We did review this in the managers meeting, but as a friendly reminder, this training is focused on our U.S. and Canadian managers. Therefore, all of those on this call will be entering goals into ADP. Please note that an enhancement for this year allows you to actually align goals in the system to the 2018 priority categories. For our employees in the UK, goals were actually already implemented on 2017 performance review process. However, now is the time, if you have employees in the UK, to review the goals and ensure that they are aligned to the 2018 priorities. And lastly, our employees in Australia, China, France, Greece, Malaysia, and Thailand, there will be paper forms available. So if you have employees in those sites, please work with your HR partner. So the goal setting timeline. So now is the time you should be working with your leaders to align goals to theirs. You should also be calibrating across functions to ensure goals are aligned. You should also be having conversations with your team and your employees to determine 2018 department and individual goals. And lastly, you should be thinking and communicating with your team if you will have your employees create their own individual goals, or you will be setting team goals and assigning them to them in ADP. On May 9th, for employees using ADP, all goals should be submitted and approved in ADP. For employees using paper forms, all forms should be submitted to the site leader or HR partner as directed. And then lastly, and this is ongoing, is you should continue to monitor goal achievement and work with your employees to adjust accordingly. And as a reminder, as shared in the managers meeting on April 9th, the 2018 performance review weighting will be a 60 and 40% ratio. 60% of the review will be based on goals, and 40% will be based on values and behaviors. So as you are working to establish goals with your employees, now is the time to share the weighting for 2018 to ensure that they know that their success not only lies with their ability to achieve goals, but also for their focus on the values and behaviors of performance health. And lastly, and as a friendly reminder, you should be embedding a focus on goal achievement throughout the year. You should use performance discussions on a periodic basis to provide informal feedback to your employees. The best practice is to focus on having ongoing feedback discussions throughout the year instead of only reviewing progress during the mid-year review. Having ongoing discussions will ensure that the appropriate steps are taken throughout the year to achieve objectives, that established milestones are achieved and we are not racing to the end of the year to get everything done. Roadblocks can be lifted timely and not used as an excuse in failing to meet a target. Updates are made to due dates as appropriate, and that you can offer additional support throughout the year as needed. So, instead of performance discussions happening 3 times per year, like the top diagram, discussions should flow through the year like the bottom right diagram, a continuous process. So again, remember, while we are focused on the specific goal-setting process, the performance management process continues through the year and should be an ongoing dialogue with your leader and with your employees. And with that, I want to thank you for your time.